That's bad.
Alright, as if we don't have enough going on around here, got this thing to take care of. So some of you guys might recognize this car. A little while back I made the exhaust for it. Just whipped it up real quick. It was a nitrous carbureted deal. And he wants to switch it to EFI turbo. So that's kind of what we're doing. There's a few other things I got to do. They were having an issue getting it to fire up on the Terminator. And they were like, hey, you've messed with them before. Can you figure it out? And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to. Yeah, so we're going to be using these up and forward manifolds and going to a big single T6 here. Got to figure out where to put it. There's simultaneously a lot of room and not really much room. I would like to put it either here or over there, but with the way these headers are, it kind of limits things unless you get like real stupid with the turns and everything, the radiuses. And we're gonna cut this right about here. Gonna get that out of there and to do like some sort of tube deal. Might pull the bumper cover off and get rid of the steel support in there. Get a little bit of weight off the front. They said more or less put the turbo wherever you want it, wherever it works. But they were like, if you can, it'd be cool to put the turbo down here, which I do think would be sweet. It's kind of a track racer spot to put it. That's a lot of weight down low, about as far out front as you can get it. I don't know. I'm probably going to end up cutting this back to here because this angle over there kind of messes things up. So I'll probably end up cutting this back to here, and then I might just put the turbo down in the middle here. I think when we cut this, might move the radiator forward. We can lean it a little bit. Is there coolant in this? Yes. Okay, gotta drain that. Yeah, so we might move this forward, and then we can put the turbo right here so that these pipes are kind of coming down to a Y like that. And then they want to just go right into the intake. So if we do that, we can somewhat mimic how I did it on the RX-7, to where turbo's going like right up like that. It'd be nice to keep the turbo as high as we can for higher center of gravity. There's a lot of different factors to consider. Really, in something like this, it just comes down to where you can fit it. And like, sure, they said if you got to cut stuff, that's fine. But I don't know. I think we can make it work and make it look nice and work nice and stuff like that. Ooh, another thing. Actually, what we could do is we could move the radiator over here on an angle like this. This tiny radiator, we can kind of get this cut out, get rid of this plastic and stuff, and just figure out, where we think things will work, where we can get the turbo to fit so that it looks like it'll work well, and then we can find a spot for the radiator. That's not a big deal. This isn't a street car so much anymore. So yeah, I'm gonna get to work, start just cutting stuff, and I'll show you guys some of the progress. All right, making some pretty good progress. Got the center of the core support cut out, and we've got tons of room. I do think that I'm going to try to put the turbo kind of in the middle here and see how well that works out. I have to keep in mind that the hot side pipes are going to come from the top, kind of merge into it. I got to think about the wastegate, which will probably come off the front, possibly. And then I got to think about the charge pipe going into the intake. So that could be a little fun, depending on how I feel like doing it, I suppose. Yeah, if I do that, there should be tons of room for a straight piece, and then coming over here to the radiator, the upper one, shouldn't be a big deal either. Actually, if I'm going to do that, I was planning on having the turbo sideways so that the inlet like the air inlet was over here, and then the exhaust came off this way. But if I turned the turbo a little bit, then, or actually if I turned it completely and sat it in here, I believe that gives plenty of room. I mean, I'll have to set the turbo in here and see, but I believe that'll give plenty of room for exhaust, all that, and the charge pipe. So I think I'm going to set the turbo in here and see how that looks. I think that'll work. It's not the most handsome layout, but I think it'll work. So this one's going to kind of S down into that there. This one's going to come around and merge in from there. I don't know if I have another V-band. I'll have to check with them, see if there's... I might be able to cut one off something. Because yeah, I'd like to have a V-band on this side, right in here somewhere, just so that the kit comes apart pretty easily. I did just close the hood and check, and there's about a 1/2 inch of clearance between this and the bottom of the hood. 1/2 inch, 3/4, give or take. And we do have a bunch of room for the radiator. I was debating on kind of laying it back a little bit here, but I think standing it up over on this side is probably the way to go. But yeah, it's looking like it'll work out pretty good. I got the dump pipe, this 5-inch boy here. Probably gonna have to rotate a little bit. I don't want to shuffle anything around because it's kind of balanced right now, but I think I can reclock the dump pipe a little bit and then reuse that O2 sensor bung. Hopefully. We'll see. If not, I've got to add on to it anyway, and there's one there that I can use, because that is pretty close to the exhaust housing anyway. And then, yeah, we need like a little flange that goes to that, and then we can put a coupler and go right into the intake. So I just got to start cutting and welding now before things move around on me too much. But yeah, I think it'll work. This is all 3-inch pipe too. It's huge. I think for something like this, like 2.5 would probably have been better. The up and forward headers on this thing are an enormous pain in the ass for a single turbo kit. If it was twins, it'd be fine. But trying to get them to go into a single and not be stupid, not interfere with themselves, it was kind of a pain in the butt. But I'm trying to work with everything that they have. But once it's all welded up and it has some nice heat wrap on it, it'll look fine. It'll do the job for sure. All right. My back hurts so much from bending over this car. Or maybe from this car bending me over. But made a lot of progress. It looks kind of goofy, but it should work really well. The radiator there, this isn't a street car that's going to get driven for hours. He's building a different street car, so he said this is more race car oriented, which is one of the reasons this is going right into the intake. So working with what I've got, that's kind of the spot for the radiator. They can get a straight out thermostat housing, go into that. There's a bunch of room around the wastegate. This is still just kind of sitting there. The driver's side pipe is all tacked up. That's how that's going to live. And not too bad, honestly. This I would like to bend in towards the crank a little bit more. That way it can just kind of come around and then flow better into the pipe. It'll be fine regardless, even if I just ran it like that. Truth be told, I've seen some really, really stupid turbo kits make a bunch of power, so this thing would be fine. It really amuses me how it kind of does one of those. But like I said, should work. I need to get this pipe notched out and get a hole cut in the other pipe, get that tacked together, pull everything out, and then bench weld all of that. And then that should be pretty good. Then I need to cut some plates out for this to weld, and I'm going to weld nuts on the inside of that so that the bar here is removable, just to make things a little bit easier. And then off of that, I'm going to weld the nut onto the exhaust housing to help support the weight of the turbo, because that's a pretty heavy turbo. And then I can also make something off that to hold the radiator at the top here. On the bottom, I'm going to make new mounts coming off the frame, which should be good. Those I'll probably just be able to do some brackets coming off that with holes that these tabs, because on the bottom it has two, that those tabs can sit in, and then I'll use this like a tab coming off the core support bar to actually bolt to that. That'll be the main thing holding it, and the other things will just kind of locate it. And yeah, we made a lot more progress today than I thought. I think this car is going to be pretty sweet. It looks a whole lot tougher, that's for sure. Compared to how this thing looked when it was dropped off, this thing, it looks like it's about ready to party. And then when you see that big 102 there, sheesh! This might want to go right through where the core support bar is, actually. Yeah, I can bring the core support bar around here like this, you know, like a big horseshoe. I can do that. Alright, so that won't be a big deal. So, I'm going to get back to work, keep knocking this thing out. I might take a break for a little bit. My back actually does hurt a lot. Alright, got the hot side all welded up. I think it actually turned out pretty decent for what it is. Here, I'm not going to, you know, here, this might be best until it's wrapped to show it from back here. But, you can see that is the driver's side, loops around, it'll go under the frame rail, and over here kind of snake into it. This is the passenger side, it kind of loops and then does a horseshoe that you can't really see from here, but it does one of these into the pipe, so it's not just like a T into it. It does flow into it pretty well. And then comes right towards the wastegate and then turns into the turbo, so the wastegate has a bunch of priority. So now I'm going to get this thing wrapped and toss it back on the car. Alright, got it all in the car, and it actually looks great, I think. The turbo kit fits phenomenally. I thought I was going to have to put a V-band on this side to get it in and out, but it actually, all you got to do is just pull it this way and then tilt it, and it comes right out. Super easy. Turbo has tons of room, fits great. Like I think I mentioned earlier, when I make the new core support bar, I'm going to weld a bracket on and weld a nut to this exhaust housing to help support the turbo. And even one of the downpipes that they dropped off with it works well. I got the steering all the way to the left, and it still clears. So yeah, now that the hot side is done, you guys can see the wastegate priority now. That should work great. And that's like a 55 millimeter wastegate. It's a big boy. That's for a lot of flow. So now that that's done, I'm going to start mounting the radiator. I'm going to start with the lower mounts. And I think what I'm going to do for that is, I think I'm going to get it located kind of where I want it to sit. I'm going to bend up some steel bar stock and basically make like angle pieces to come off the frame rail. They'll sit in those little mounting tabs. I'll drill holes so that those can sit in it. We'll put like rubber washers around it to isolate it. And then I'll weld those to the frame. That way those are permanently mounted. Probably do some sort of gusset on the side to help support the weight. And then once that's good, I can make the core support bar up here, and then we'll use the core support bar to make a mounting tab for the top of it. I think that's our best setup. But yeah, dude, I think this thing's gonna be sweet. This thing should run. All right, it is getting pretty late, sun's setting, and I'm out of welding gas, so we're kind of stuck calling it here for now. But I did get the bottom radiator mounts done, and if I do say so myself, they will work perfectly. They are just some 1/8 inch bar stock that I bent, welded to the frame. This one you can see I have a huge gusset to help support it, and honestly, I think that would support it on its own, no problem, but I still plan on doing a mount up here that will go to this bolt hole to physically hold it up, and those are basically just going to locate it. But yeah, right about there is how it'll sit. Should work phenomenally. I'm super happy with how everything's turning out. Yeah, I was welding this one, and I started thinking to myself, man, this is smelling very weird all of a sudden. That's interesting. Haven't smelled this familiar, but I haven't smelled it in a while. And the welds were just turning out like crap. I was just powering through it a little bit towards the end because I only had like 2 inches left to weld. And
Took the hood off, shut everything down, went to turn the gas off, and I noticed the gauge was already at 0, so I was like... But for that, I think it's fine. Yeah, right about there. That's how it's going to sit. So I tried to get the radiator up as high as I can so that the fill point is the highest point, and it's pretty darn close. They might have to put a funnel in that and let the funnel become the highest point, so that should work. And then upper radiator hose will be super easy. They can basically just get a straight one. The bottom one should also be super easy, actually, because like I said earlier, they can get a straight thermostat housing, and that can go right up there. There's tons of air gap, and again, with the header wrap, if it bumps into it periodically, not a big deal. So, next things I got to do, obviously make the tubular core support here, and then make the charge pipe, which should be somewhat simple. I'm going to take one of the ends of this and lop it off, because that's obviously not going to work. And we'll use that as our V-band for this. And then we got a coupler here, and we'll just go into a 45 or so and weld the blow off to that. And we should be good with the turbo kit. So I don't know how long this video has been going, but it's been 2 days of work so far, and I'm probably going to end it here. There's a few more things left to do. Some of it will be off camera, probably. And then we'll get this thing finished up and try to get it fired up. Can't wait to hear how this thing sounds. So that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you guys need anything from Snake Eater Performance, use code SNYDERTRON for 10% off your order. If you need anything from Shipbox Supply, use code SNYDERTRON for 5% off your order. If you need anything from Circle D, use code SNYDER3000 for 10% off your order. We just got discounts everywhere. If you guys want any merch to help out the channel, that's always first link in the description below. I'm trying to think of some new designs, especially now that we got Jack, not Nitrous anymore. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, clicking that bell. I'll see you next time.